Hello my friends, welcome to Take a Deep Breath. My name is Mike Maher, I'm a certified breathwork coach, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about the power of our diaphragm, why it's so important and why so many of us are not getting that full potential that we should be. Let's get stuck straight in. And today's video is sponsored by Aerofit. Stay a breath ahead. More about them later. So if you're new to the channel, I am an explorer of breathwork. I have a podcast where I interview all the world's top breathing experts, and I also put out on this channel on a regular basis different breathing exercises to improve our mental and physical health. So you'll want to check out the back catalogue. Now I get a lot of questions about the diaphragm. Should we be using it? How do we use it? What's the problem with it? So I want to aim to talk about some of those things in today's videos so you can walk away with some wonderful tips and tricks to go out there and be a more functional breather, a healthy breather. Now, if you're new to the channel, you might not have heard me talk about the power of the nose, but let's just keep it short and say the nose is for breathing and the mouth is for kissing, and we can check that out. There's a different video about the power of nasal breathing. But I want to give you a quote now about why the diaphragm is so important. One of the most important books of our time is called Breath, which is by an author called James Nestor. It's really the Bible of good breathing. And I'll just quote something he says in that book. Even if we breathe through the nose 24 hours a day, it won't help much unless we've got the lung capacity to hold that air. Just a few minutes of daily bending and breathing can expand our lung capacity. So what's he talking about there? He's talking about this dome-shaped muscle that sits under your lungs that is responsible for keeping you alive. Now, when we think about muscles and going to the gym, I don't know about you, we often think about doing a bicep curl or maybe a squat. And to quote It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, most of us work out our glamour muscles. I'm definitely guilty of that. Maybe you can't tell. But what we need to think about are some of these hidden muscles that are keeping us going. And the diaphragm is one of the biggest muscles in our body. And if you just put your fingers under the soft part where the ribs finish and you just start to work your fingers around all the way to the back, well, that gives you an idea how big the diaphragm is. Now, you may not know we take between 20 and 30,000 breaths per day. That diaphragm's moving up to 30,000 times per day. So if that's off just by a little bit, then that has got huge consequences on our overall health, and I'll explain a little bit about that. But just in short, just know that when the diaphragm comes down, when it sucks in the air, we want a full breath, we want a deep breath, we want a slow breath, but the diaphragm needs to pull the air in. And in the lower parts of our lungs is where the real magic happens. That's where the greatest transfer of blood is, and we get oxygen into the body. I'm not going to go into all the science today, but just know that if your diaphragm is locked, then that causes lots of problems. So the immediate question people ask is, well, why would my diaphragm be locked? I've been breathing my whole life. I know what I'm doing. Well, there's a series of reasons why our diaphragms don't move properly. And in fact, I just heard something the other day that when women are pregnant, very quickly their bellies stick out. And it's not because the baby's grown, it's because for the first time they've had permission to stop sucking in their bellies, because we live in a society of Barbie dolls and Ken action figures where everything's tight and sucked in. And so there's sometimes some shame associated with kind of gut sucking. It kind of forces us to use the wrong muscles, the chest muscles, to kind of suck things up. We sit in bad posture all day as well. Yeah, I'm an office worker. I sit in this desk talking to you in this camera, and often we're sitting there for many, many hours. And we've got poor role models, so we've got other people that are gut sucking. We might be copying them. But don't worry, because if that's you, if that feels like maybe some of those things have resonated with you, we can unpick some of that stuff today. And so what I wanted to introduce you to the concept of is inspiratory muscle training. Training for your diaphragm, using the gym of breathing to make your muscles stronger, because the stronger your diaphragm is, better it pulls in the air, the more concentration of oxygen gets sucked into your body, and you become more efficient. And interestingly, when they talk about lung capacity, what we're really talking about there is how much air you're bringing into your lungs, because if your diaphragm is locked, if your ribs are locked, then you're never going to be able to get a good breath. And I often talk about imagining there's a balloon in a bird cage. You know, that balloon can only expand as much as that bird cage will allow. Well, actually, we can kind of stretch and twist and use all of our muscles. And I'm going to share some other videos where I talk about stretching routines. But today it's all about how do we make that diaphragm stronger. So let me just give you 3 tips right now how we can do inspiratory muscle training. So number 1 is awareness. So it's as simple as that. And often in yoga and breathing, it always comes back to awareness. It's the first step to being able to make a change. And so there's a very common technique out there called high-low breathing. I'm just going to show you that quickly now. You just put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And you just want to start to take some breaths. And some people might start to see their chest expanding. And other people might start to see their belly expanding. And some people might not see any movement at all, and some people might see both. And what we just want to get here is just a general sense of where your breathing is right now, and it can change throughout the day. But to take that to the next step, it isn't belly breathing, it's diaphragmatic breathing. Because our diaphragm, as I said, is all the way around. So I want you to think about your diaphragm, and I want you to think about 360 breathing, which is not always a concept people have heard of. So what I mean by that is, your breathing, yes, it comes out through the belly, but it also is the sides and is also the back. And, you know, people have been on my podcast saying that they realised during the early days of COVID that when they took people off their backs and put them on the sides in the hospital, they were able to get more breathing in because we impede or we restrict our breathing when we lay on our back. So think about a 360 breath. And another quick test you can do is you can put your hands on the sides. You can take a breath in and look down, and you can see if your hands are moving sideways or not. Now, these things take a bit of practice. Again, the first step is awareness. So number 1. Number 2, have you ever blown out a candle before? There is something called candle breath. And all it is, it's just looking like you're blowing out a candle and creating some resistance. Let me show you. You can use your mouth and close the hole, and you can actually tighten up the air that comes out. Now, when you play some resistance on the exhale, you're making the diaphragm work a bit harder like a muscle, and you start to build it up. So that's kind of level 2. Level 1, awareness. Level 2, candle breath, exhale, stronger exhales. Number 3, using a widget or a device. And that's where today's sponsor comes in. So today's video is sponsored by Aerofit. And Aerofit is a device that you place in your mouth, and you can adjust the exhale a bit like candle breath. But with this, you can also adjust the inhale. Now, it comes with a beautiful app. And so what you can do, you can play different games and do different things. It can measure your lung volume, and it can track your progress over time. And so with something like an Aerofit, what you can do is you can play with both the inhale and exhale, toughening the diaphragm on the inhale and the exhale. Let me demonstrate. Now, this is a real workout, and you can start at beginner level. So there's different knobs you can turn to start at different things, and the app guides you all the way through it. But this is inspiratory muscle training at its finest, because what this is doing is it's tracking it, and it's giving you different levels of resistance so you can see what's happening. And so, in summary, the diaphragm is a wonderful muscle. We need to use it as much as possible. We want to make sure that those 20 to 30,000 breaths a day are done properly. The biomechanics are correct. So we want to think about the awareness of our stomachs, the awareness of our breathings. We want to let go if we're gut sucking. We want to be stretching. There's a different video I'll link to about that. And we want to maybe tighten up those muscles, make them a bit stronger. So if we're going down the gym and we're working out, fantastic. But don't forget about the diaphragm as well. Bit of awareness, bit of candle breath. And if you want to take it really to the next level, a bit of something like Aerofit, a wonderful device, which I'm going to link down below so you can find the link and you can explore more if this is something for you. So how did you find that video? Was it useful? How's your diaphragm breathing? What do you get stuck with? Put those comments down below and I'll come back and answer those for you now. And if you want to try a different breathing exercise, you can try this. And if you are looking for some podcast about breathing, especially the diaphragm, check out this where we actually talk about inspiratory muscle training. Thank you so much. See you on the next video. Cheers.